Okay, so welcome back to the Into the Abyss. Every now and then we like to do a segment where we highlight what we like to call contemporary classics. So these are classics that maybe are not classics in the sense of they were in the 50s and the 60s, but they've come to be known as the classics through the 80s and the 90s. So again, accounting for my propensity to ramble on, we're going to let Tom McDonough go first with his selections for contemporary classics this time.
Thank you, Kevin. Now, actually, I've already did the book recommendations, so now I'm doing the movie recommendations. As most people always had an issue about movies based on books, what is better, the movie or the book? Some can be pretty obvious, and some are very questionable. Now, our first one is going to be Jaws, 1975 movie directed by Steven Spielberg, and of course with the soundtrack by Spielberg's most well-known accomplice, John Williams. Let's be honest, right then and there, Williams made the most iconic score in the world with just two notes. That's it. Now, I'm pretty sure that most people who watch this have seen Jaws. If you have not, you really need to. However, I know that some people make the mistake of assuming that this is a bad reflection on the world of sharks. I think the movie Jaws is more about how people don't respect Mother Nature enough to realize that no matter what we do, Mother Nature can always throw it for us. Now, of course, give a quick synopsis. On the island of Amity, which is actually the movie is filmed at Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, is facing a series of shark attacks. Shark attacks by great white shark, and of course, great whites can really get to be absolutely huge. And yes, rarely great whites actually rarely attack humans, but in this case, this one's found a taste for flesh. This movie stars Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw. Now, one thing I noticed on 1970s, the 1970s period is 1970s music and airplanes are great. 1970s architecture is terrible. It's a weird situation. Because when it comes to 1970s movies, I see a lot of great acting here. This movie, does it qualify as a horror movie? Yes. Does it qualify as a drama / adventure? Yes. It is a worthwhile movie. Now, when I first saw this, of course, it was on regular television. It scared the hell out of me. And I think anyone who was young at that time, it scared the hell out of them too. I didn't want to go into a pool after watching this movie. Okay? That was, it was very, in terms of scary. And Chuck, you talked about the fear of the open ocean. This is definitely one of those things. There are many scenes that really just absolutely scare the hell out of me. Everything from, first of all, it shows a kid being killed.
Actually, I'll point out, there's one thing I love about Jaws is the fact that it breaks the norms of movies in general. The first two things that die are a dog and a kid.
Yeah. Well, actually, the first one was the skinny dipping girl, so let's add in.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So, I'm going to add something to what you say, but go ahead, you continue.
All right. Now, Roy Scheider plays the chief, Martin Brody, and he's trying to close down the beaches, but unfortunately, the mayor and the townsmen don't want it because tourism is their biggest draw, and they would, the town's economy.
COVID.
Yeah, we got something else that's shutting down beaches right now. So, with the help of Richard Dreyfuss, who plays Matt Hooper from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, and then finally with Shark Hunter Quint, played by the renowned great actor Robert Shaw. After several more people are killed, and Brody's son is almost killed as well, and he's in shock. The three men finally get the mayor to agree to pay Quint to go, and they're going to go out and kill the shark. So half the movie is dedicated to these three guys trying to get the shark, and it just shows the depth of acting as well. Shaw's monologue about the Indianapolis, the USS Indianapolis, when they were all drinking one night, and he was talking about Indianapolis delivered components to the atomic bomb, and it's a top secret mission. It got sunk, and you had sailors being killed and eaten by sharks. It was very powerful. As I said, it was a very scary, very action and not action. I say more adventure than anything else. So Jaws is definitely a movie to be aware of. As I said, there's always Jaws moments we all get involved with, where if you're in a certain situation, it just pops into your head. I remember when I went on spring break down in Florida, I was walking through the water. I actually stepped on a stingray, and thank goodness I didn't get stung. But you saw me reenacting Jesus Christ walking on water. I never moved so fast out of the ocean. Now, my second movie...
Well, I just want to point out, add on to this, if you haven't seen Jaws yet, what is wrong with you? Go watch Jaws. Like, stop everything. Take tomorrow off and go watch Jaws. You have to see Jaws.
It's not modern, it's not updated. I'd rather go see the Meg. Screw that. Screw that. Okay, a good movie is not just about the scares. It's about the acting. It's about the directing. It's just that's what you're looking for. Okay, you're looking for a good story.
If you haven't seen Jaws yet, you have to question your life choices.
I have to add an anecdotal story here. Now, having been raised in a Baptist evangelical Christian home, I do have to say my father was extremely lenient when it came to reading material, which I'm thankful for. He was just happy I was reading. There were a few books, however, he did censor along the way. One of them was Jaws. I bought it at a garage sale, and he said, "Let me take a look at this first before you read it." So he put it on his bookshelf. Well, over the summer vacation, I snuck it off of his bookshelf. And Tom was talking about or maybe Chuck was, talking about the opening scene about the girl getting eaten by the shark. At that point in my life, I was obviously not ready for horror. Because I read that opening scene about how the girl felt a slight tug. I will never forget this. The girl felt a slight tug on her leg, and she reached down to her knee and felt nothing but a nub and nothing else. I closed that book and said, nope, 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 and I put it right back in my dad's shelf, and I never read it. So at that time I was only like 13. So I was obviously not ready for horror. And I only bring that up, Chuck, because you mentioned the first girl that was killed. The first person that was killed was that girl that was killed. That image will stick. That mental image will stick in my mind forever. Tom, continue with your second contemporary classic.
All right, our second one is Silence of the Lambs, a 1991 movie directed by Jonathan Demme, starring Jodie Foster, Anthony Hopkins, Ted Levine, and Scott Glenn. Now, big thing about this movie, of course it is based on the book by Thomas Harris, is it won 5 Academy Awards. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, Best Actor, Best Screenplay. So that really tells you something, because if you ever watch this movie, it is a horror movie. And it covers a lot of the horror movies, everything from serial killer to psychological as well. Now, yeah, I can actually imagine some people have not watched this before. Because I'm going to be honest, this is not a teeny bopper horror movie whatsoever. It follows FBI trainee Clarice Starling, who is tasked by her boss to interview Dr. Hannibal Lecter, an imprisoned psychiatrist who's also a serial killer. And this was in relation to a slew of current deaths by a serial killer by a person nicknamed Buffalo Bill, who is killing larger women and skinning their bodies as well.
It puts the lotion on the skin, or it gets the hose.
Hose again. Oh, God. Yes, watching this movie, it is absolute horror. There's a lot of psychological elements. I need to point out, of course, I've done my research. This was done with the full cooperation of the FBI. We're hoping to get more people interested, especially women, to sign up to be agents of the FBI. And Scott Glenn, his character Jack Crawford, is based on John Douglas, one of the forerunners of the FBI Behavioral Science Unit, the Mind Hunters. Now, I read Douglas's book Mind Hunters as well. That's terrifying too. I hate to say it, during one period of my life, I went through a serial killer phase in terms of my interest in reading. Yeah, my family thought I was having issues.
2 a.m. Google searches. Anyway.
No, we're talking back in the 1990s. So yeah, so when you're getting books out of the library
He's the OG serial killer reader.
Oh, yes. Anyways, I love their use of, like, Buffalo Bill was based on Ed Gein, who wanted to make a woman's suit. And the Starling Lecter, we'll say the Starling Lecter consultations were actually similar to an FBI agent who was asking for help from Ted Bundy, well-known serial killer as well, to hunt another serial killer, the Green River Killer. Turns out Bundy provided nothing. He just wanted to see pictures of the death so he could enjoy it. Now, this entire movie is absolutely worth it, okay? This is what I call a thinking horror movie. Really, you get delved into the whole research and analysis behind it. There's no just lucky spot, there it is. And some of the scary scenes, I mean, because they're scary because, oh my God, this can be very realistic. We're at the end where Starling confronts Jamie Gumb, the Buffalo Bill Killer, in his house, and his entire basement is just this gigantic horror show. Absolutely terrifying. And you might say, well, this is just Hollywood. Like, no, this is what humans can do. So, yeah, see The Silence of the Lambs, but just beware. It is, what makes it scary is this is what human beings do. Okay, that's what makes it scary. Forget ghosts, forget goblins, forget sparkly vampires. We're talking the reality situation. Silence of the Lambs, it is considered one of the great movies to watch. And let's add on, most people thought there wasn't enough Hannibal Lecter, but when he actually was able to, one character in particular was a senator whose daughter was kidnapped by Buffalo Bill. She was able to finagle him to get a better place to live in instead of this very dank, scary area he lived in. And unfortunately he escaped, and what he did to the two cops guarding him, I'm not gonna ruin anything, but oh my God, that gave me nightmares. So Silence of the Lambs, definitely go see it. And some of you are thinking about watching it right now.
Yeah. So my two contemporary classics, the first one is one I decided to watch earlier this year. What are you doing? That's awful. So we know it's late in the evening and into the abyss when Chuck is trolling my Facebook and finding pictures of my latest tattoo. Moving on. So
we should go do tattoos.
So my first contemporary classic is the movie House, starring William Catt, George Wendt, and Richard Mall of the bald Night Court fame. He was the big old security guard. Mole. So Mole. Richard Boll.
Bull.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I thought it was Mall. Anyway, so side anecdotal note. When I was in high school, we had a little store up the road from the school. This was very early in the video rental, phenomenon. I don't think in our area anyway, Video King was not a thing yet. Blockbuster was definitely not a thing yet. Video rentals were really small outfits, and we had a little store up the road from the school that had video rentals. You can sign up for a card, and here's the movies you can rent. But this store was like your typical teen hangout. This is where we all went before our home basketball games. We went up there, we bought a sub, we hung out, and we walked back down to the basketball game. They actually had a TV and a VCR and several chairs, and they would let you pick any video as long as it wasn't rated R, or if it was rated R, as long as it didn't have any nudity. And they let you just grab it for free, put it in the TV and VCR, and sit there and watch it. One of the very first videos I ever saw there was clips from the movie House, and I ended up seeing it later. It was one of those movies where I'm like, you know what? I was looking for movies this week on Amazon Prime, and I saw, holy cow, House is part of Amazon Prime. And I'm like, I know I've watched this movie at least twice. I have the barest memories of this movie. So I need to rewatch this movie. And I did. I rewatched it earlier this week. House is a really wonderful movie, 1985. That it's a great forerunner, I think, of Tucker and Dale versus Evil. All these horror comedies. In that it's not trying to avoid horror tropes at all. William Katt, better known as the greatest American hero. Right. He is a horror novelist named Richard Cobb. And after his son mysteriously disappears when he and his actress wife are living at his grandmother's... Actually, I can't remember if his grandmother or his aunt. I apologize. Some alcoholic beverages have been consumed. Grandmother or aunt, he's living at her stately home. His son disappears. His grandmother / aunt is, of course, like, the house took him. His wife and he are never able to get over his son's disappearance. They divorce. So now he is your very cliched horror author who's tired of his adoring fans, and he wants to write a personal novel about his time in the Vietnam War. And his aunt hangs herself. Aunt / grandmother. Can't remember which. Apologize. She hangs herself in the old house that she claimed was haunted. And he decides, well, I'm trying to write this very personal memoir about the Vietnam War, which of course my agents don't want me to write. They want me to write another horror novel. So I'm going to move back to this cursed place where my son disappeared, and I'm going to write this novel. So this is a really great movie, and here's the reason why. It doesn't flinch at all from the trope of horror novelist moving back to his greatest source of trauma to write a very personal novel. Although in 1985, I'm not sure how cliche this trope actually was. Right now, in 2020, we can look back at that and say, dude, that's super cliche. I'm not sure how cliche it was back then. Although Stephen King had already written a slew of novels about a horror author trying to confront his fears. It's not super original. But House has got a lot of heart. It's a fun movie to watch. It is rated R. When my memories of watching this as a kid was some genuine spooks. You know, some of the physical, there are no CGI effects, obviously being 1985. So all the horror effects are practical effects, and they're pretty well done. There's some moments of genuine humor. Like, I love this one scene where William Katt is basically burying the corpse of this monster who impersonated his ex-wife. And as he's burying this corpse, the hot, sexy European neighbor is like coming onto him in his swimsuit. And here the corpse is, like, the hand is creeping out trying to grab his foot. And all you can think of is like, oh man, this poor guy's trying to hook up with this girl, and he just can't get this corpse of this monster to stop bothering him. So it's got some genuine humor in there. But I remember as a kid some genuine spooky stuff too. And the whole core of the movie, him trying to understand what happened to his son. This missing case, this missing person's case has never been solved. Also, too, what we discover is that he's got some trauma from the Vietnam War, where one of his crazy, a little stereotypical, crazy psycho Vietnam buddies, he left him behind. and he's got this guilt of how he left them behind. And we discover that is the source of the haunting of this movie. If we were to rewatch this movie now as adults, most of us are not going to find this scary at all. But it's a really good example of a movie that's got heart, and it's it's got some funny moments that don't feel forced. I don't know, it's just a really good film. You know, you're looking back, oh, when I was a kid, this was really scary. Not really scary anymore, but it's not terribly corny either. Like, I tried to watch House 2, and I tapped out about a third of the way through. I was like, this is corny, this is stupid, this doesn't ever have, like, all I can say is Richard Cobb and him trying to face his fears, trying to discover what happened to his son. There's a heart there. Even as George Wendt, you know, Norm from Cheers, is playing the affable, clueless next door neighbor, there's some humor there. But there's some substance to that first movie. So I'd highly recommend House, starring William Katt, Richard Mull, and George Wendt, on Amazon Prime. The second classic that I would recommend, contemporary classic, is, we've already talked tonight about Centralia, PA, and that would be Silent Hill, the first Silent Hill movie, starring Sean Bean and Alice Krige, and it's a really, really great film. I've actually never played the games. I have to admit this, to my shame. I'm not a big video game player anyway, so I've never played the Silent Hill games. But Silent Hill, the original movie, it's about these, Sean Bean and his wife have adopted this girl, and she keeps drawing these pictures and having these dreams of where she came from, Silent Hill. And the mother, in a desperate gamble to try to help the girl find some sort of resolution or healing, tries to take her back to Silent Hill. And it's really striking. Chuck and Tom, have you seen this movie, the original Silent Hill movie?
I have, yeah, and it does carry over one of the, probably the most iconic figure from Silent Hill, which is Pyramid Head.
Yeah. It's, now, I've seen the second one. The second one's, The first movie, some of the images there are so surreal and so disturbing. And I stopped short of calling them gore-filled, because there is bloodshed. There is physical mutilations in Silent Hill, but it reaches for a phantasmic, surreal level that's just very powerful. And again, it's a really common thematic thread. A mother who will do anything for her daughter. Even though the daughter is adopted, she will do anything for their daughter. And of course, there's also the idea of religious persecution and religious zealousness. I can't remember the name of the character, but the female cop in that story, I don't think I have been ever as disappointed. Like, and again, this is part of a horror story, right? You know this is well done when the character meets an unfortunate end, and you're like, no! You know that was going to be the end, but you're still, like, really mad. Like, why did that person have to die? I don't think I've ever met a character since then where I was like, no, that character deserves to live. And unfortunately, she doesn't. But those are my two contemporary classic recommendations. Will be House.
Fun fact about Silent Hill.
Silent Hill.
Not there. The games actually feature multiple endings, and there's one, the weird ending, where you find out that the whole thing was just a simulation controlled by a dog. You break through the door, and you find out there's a Shiba Inu or a Akita sitting there at the controls, controlling your whole life.
A dog?
A dog.
I'm glad the movie didn't end that way.
That's a funny ending.
So anyway, Jaws, Silence of the Lambs, House, Silent Hill, go watch those now.